welcome everybody. Thanks so much for showing up, either showing up now or later if you're watching the replay. I'm Jennifer Sack, and I help wellness pros be more impactful as a leader and more financially successful, attracting and retaining more clients simply by showing up calm, confident, and the embodiment of the peace and presence that they teach. And I am so stoked today to have our guest on, Genesee Salamon. She is here she's a spiritual women's empowerment coach who helps high achieving, spiritually minded women overcome anxiety, perfectionism. That is one thing I'm actually really interested in hearing about today, and poor sleep without medication. And she's here today to really help us out and guide us and show us how we can truly soften and release anxiety through the magic of one of her specialties, which is EFT tapping. So this is so important because many of us who struggle with chronic tension and anxiety are gripping, and softening, relaxing in general has become a very foreign concept. So it's going to be a great moment to sit back, relax, and learn about how we can move into this space and address what happens when you do, what's getting in your way, and then give you some real-time experience of softening so that you can put that into your practice day in, day out, so you can start to rewire that stress loop. So, Genesee, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me here today. I feel very blessed and grateful. It's a wonderful experience.
Yay, I'm so glad that you agreed to join me on this. You have so many valuable gifts and insights. I've been watching you online for a while now, and I love everything that you're out there sharing. And I did one of your EFT quick sessions that you shared live, and I thought this is perfect. I need to have her on to share this with the group. So
Oh,
let's see. I want to learn a little more about you because I know what you do since I've been watching you, but I
yeah.
want to hear about your journey. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about what led you to the work that you do now, and
Yeah.
especially why you zeroed in on helping women overcome anxiety. And I love the little caveat without medication. So there's a story there, or there's
Yeah.
something there that made you zero in on that. So please do share your journey and what led you to working with those women.
Thank you. And I really appreciate that. But I've worked many years in the field of clinical social work, in the medical field, in the community settings, and private practice settings. And I always blended kind of my presence of spirituality through my heart um, within my clinical training that I was when I was serving folks. But um, you know, I really started to have an understanding of how trauma, anxiety, and these deeply held patterns affected women specifically because I noticed that women were coming to me on a very frequent basis. And um, I noticed like over time that women would tell me, well, I don't want to take medication. And I could really resonate with that because there was parts of um, the medication process. I think that it feels like this kind of silent surrender, like they really want to reach the root cause and not have something that was assisting. So although medication can be very supportive and I encourage it when it's needed, it often only carries people so far. And so I saw that need and just thought to myself, um, wow, this is really about the nervous system and the biochemistry and these somatic patterns. And the more the field evolved, the more that information became available. Um, so I start to really see that, women were holding this tension in their body, holding this tension in this overthinking patterns, these critical patterns, this perfectionism, anxiety, and difficult with sleep, and not wanting to use the medication. So I think, perfectionism in itself stood out to me as a really key factor because I started to begin to understand how perfection was protection and against the sense of uncertainty that we encounter. And later recognized that, although there's these there's these seeds of strength that's kind of held in perfectionism as well. And so, this detail, this devotion, this discernment, this presence, this like really fine-tuned perception that folks with, and people, women in particular, with perception, I mean, with a, perfectionism experience. And I thought, how can we get to a place where we're celebrating this? And so, what really shifted things for me was when, I live in Northern California, and there was a tragic fire that really rocked my home, my sense of safety. Um, and I was still outwardly showing up and being really present in my work. And yet inwardly, my noticing of my nervous system and how dysregulated it was just so alert, so locked, so tight on such a frequent basis. And then the sleep started to happen, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is happening. And so, although I'd myself had years of therapy and medication, those things hadn't been enough. And so, that's what brought me back to my already trained path in EFT. And so I'd always known it had helped, and it had been a crucial part in my mind body nervous system regulation in other times in my life, and propelled me forward. So um, it led me down the path of getting clinically certified and really deepening my understanding of the mind body connection, the nervous system, um, and the parasympathetic responses. And so I just decided, let's get certified, and I did. So energy psychology and energy medicine became, and a heart brain coherence, a focal point of my work. And so, I really love science. And so I needed to know that it was going to be evidence based. And that's my favorite thing about the strategies I use, is that they're all evidence based. And yet I can bring the spiritual piece of who I am into the work. And so that's what led me to coaching.
Like a beautiful merriment when you can, when you crave that evidence and you're scientifically minded, and you get that, but then you get to flavor it with the spiritual essence that
Yeah.
you embody and that you seek and that others do too. I love how you touched on how, you had this event in your life, and I think many of us can relate to this. We have this event in our life that starts to trigger this reaction within our body.
Yes.
And then you start to notice how it flows into other parts of your life. You started to notice now you're not sleeping, and it was starting to
Yeah.
really trickle into other facets of our life. And that's the sneaky thing about anxiety and
Yeah.
chronic tension, is that it starts somewhere and then it
Hmm.
kind of just seeps into all the areas of your
That's
life,
right.
affecting everything. And
Hmm.
then we kind of just get stuck there and we don't know how to move that energy and move past it. So
Exactly.
it continues on and on. And I think that's what so many of us deal with is we're like you, we're like, we've done the therapy, I'm certified in this, I should not be
Right.
feeling this way, I should be beyond this. We have
Right.
this like horrible shame about it, feeling like
Yeah.
imposters because we have all of this beautiful training, but yet we're
Yeah.
still stuck in chronic tension. And I want to
Exactly.
squash that shame, and I'm sure you would agree with me, there is no shame in that. It's
No.
literally like a biochemical thing that's happening in the body, correct? It's a
It
physiological
really, it
response.
really is a physiological response. And, you know, um, I think what I started to come to realize in that moment was that physiology and the biology of and what's taking place within the neurochemistry as a result of a patterned response of survival. Um, I started to be able to step away from that source of inward blame and shame that you were speaking about that happens so often because we really are conditioned culturally, and especially as women, to to fix it, to take it on, to there's something wrong with us and we've just gone off course and we're not holding it together anymore. What's wrong with us?
Oh yeah, because we're
So
emotional beings, you know. So we
yeah,
get in trouble for being emotional or having any upset in our life.
it's so true. And I think that the experience of that emotionality is what we get to learn to celebrate and reframe, because it is one of our greatest strengths. And when we stay disconnected in a dominant paradigm that sees things through one perspective, we're not really able to um, easily adopt this new perspective, which is like, actually, that's my strength, and I get to claim it. I get to lean into this softness and vulnerability in a way that's more meaningful, because actually it takes much greater courage and strength to be in vulnerability of naming that emotionality. And so
Yes.
when we name it, it's like, oh wow. And then I can say, and that's been what it is. And that's okay too, because that softening, that being connected with, that slowing down, that having compassion actually takes much more courage than pushing and
Yes.
being and doing.
I'm so glad you brought up that point because it's in my book, it's 100% valid. And I didn't even think about that. Softening sounds like it should be the easier route. But really, it takes a ton of kind of some grit to do it because you're
Yeah.
giving way to something and you're accepting, something that you're not used to. You're used to clinging tight, adhering to a stronghold or something, or viewing it a certain way, like you said, from a certain perspective.
Yeah.
So to allow something else to come in just because softening feels softer, easier, whatever, doesn't mean that it's like the easy choice. It's not like, well, you should just relax. You
No,
need a little help there, right?
just
So,
get over it. No, yeah.
oh,
It's no big deal. Well, and we've
it's
been
not
so
good.
we've learned the perfection uh, of protection, or the protection of perfection, whichever way you want to say it, because softening isn't. We live in a pretty intense world that calls for a lot of demands of us, and so it's so easy to drop into the perfection as protection because we're insulated.
Sure. And if we've been doing that a long time, if that's kind of been our go-to,
Totally.
that's your habit and that's just your way of being. You're
That's right.
wired now to do that. So going around
Yeah.
that and trying something else is
Yeah.
definitely going to take some effort and some consistency. Let's talk a little bit about why anxiety shows up. What
Yeah.
in your experience is anxiety often trying to communicate to us? What would you say it's there to
Well,
tell us,
that
to show
is
us?
such an intelligent question that you asked, and I love it, because what is it trying to communicate? And even framing it from that perspective and that viewpoint is such a wise way of reframing. What is it trying to communicate? And instead of seeing it as an enemy, anxiety is not random. It really does show up as a message. So oftentimes it's pointing, in my experience with working with women who are high achieving and spiritually minded, I would say that what I notice is that it's presenting itself to reveal an unresolved and unrealized piece of a subconscious wounding. And some people call the subconscious the unconscious. They're slight minute detailed differentiations. However, that area, the subconscious mind, holds these limiting beliefs. So I really think what it's doing is giving us an indicator, of signaling to us, hey, listen, those old limiting belief coping patterns, they're not really working any longer. So I'm going to get really loud, because this pattern of overgiving, over pushing, over coping with those strategies isn't working anymore. So that's when we start really seeing this subtle racing thoughts. Then they start to increase, like you were talking about. Then they start to go into, oh, now it's got into my sleep. But it gets louder and louder and louder as we ignore it. Because what the body's trying to communicate is, hey, listen, I'm trying to say something. So I think it's communicating, I have a need. The body's communicating, I have a need for you to look into this part of the subconscious mind that we don't always know how to have access to. And that's where energy psychology comes in, so profoundly, because we can, with our rational mind can only do so much. But when we can go into the body, we can access the subconscious messages. And so anxiety signaling within these physiological, biological symptoms, hey, I need you to do something different.
Yeah. I love that too, because it makes anxiety instead of us pushing it down with substances or distraction, whether that be social
Yes,
media or shopping or more to-dos on our task list. So we
right.
have so many ways to distract ourselves from dealing with the anxiety that we know is there because it's causing disruption in our life. We're lashing out, we're irritable, we're tired, whatever. Instead of just thinking of like, I got to get rid of this, like befriending it and being like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
here for me. This is for me. And treating it as a form
Yeah.
of self-care, like, okay, let's lean into this and listen to what it has to say to me, because that's how you uproot it. That's how you move the energy. And that's how you become transformed and healed. And I don't think our society has really given us permission to do that. It's more leaning towards, well, this is what you can do. Take this or do that. And it's like, well, what
Right.
about this little hidden option of leaning into it and really listening to it and allowing it to be our teacher and our guide instead of this pesky little thing we need to get rid of.
That's right, Jennifer.
Yeah.
That's said so thoughtfully and really with great awareness, because that is the trick of the reframe. Because when we're constantly receiving that message to get rid of it, it becomes that much more easy to internalize that self-blaming pattern. So that you're affirming that here means so much because your work's powerful in that message.
Thank you. Because we touched on perfection a little bit, and because I can strongly relate to that one, I want to like flesh that out just a little bit more before we move into our EFT tapping session. Tell me more about how perfectionism itself feeds into this anxiety and tension. What would you say about that, since this is really kind of a large part of what you deal with?
Yeah, um, well, perfectionism in terms of how it feeds into the cycle, I would say that it amplifies anxiety. So, what it does is because there's a strong drive and determination and sense of commitment to really showing up um, in being our best and being at on point on a consistent basis. And there's perfectionism and folks and women in particular who have these challenges tend to kind of like feel like it's never enough. It's never quite how their experience perceives that it should be. And so that perception, and that's a great gift. I want to speak to that gift of perfectionism as that fine-tuned sense to detail of like striving to be our best. But when we get into opposition with it, and we look at perfectionism now as an enemy as well, but unconsciously or subconsciously don't really realize that. That's how it ties into the anxiety, because it's showing up and kind of working in a symmetry with it because it heightens the anxiety. So the nervous system is in its perfectionism constantly braced, and it's scanning for the failures, the criticisms. It's constantly prepared. So that's how the anxiety shows up in like connection with it, because it's it comes from a place of really deep fears of around not wanting to be rejected, because the person really wants to be seen for who they truly are.
That was going to be my next question is what do you feel like is beneath it all? So I'm so glad you led right into that, because I just was like, well, what's beneath the perfectionism? And you just said it. It's that fear. It's fear of rejection. Everything comes down to fear of some sort, I believe. But yes, there is
It
this fear of
does.
rejection. And so we have to, live up to a standard, even our own standard sometimes, because we often reject
Mostly,
ourselves.
mostly our own standards. I'm so glad that we're saying that. And that can be based on where is it coming from, back to that question. Excuse me, your programming and your environments that have shaped that. So whether that been from, people talk about traditional therapy, oh, that comes from this and that with the childhood. That is really significant, though, your environmental impacts. And then the internalized messages that you made as a result of wounding in those moments is that perfection as protection. And so, it's really just about, oh, please don't hurt me again. Oh, that's scary. I don't want to have that experience again, because it felt so horrible when the third grade teacher was demeaning in her words to me. And although that may be in the subconscious buried, it often comes out in the strangest of ways in energy psychology and EFT when we work with it. So it's the perfectionism is a gift as well, to understand how it works in that protect the with the protection system of anxiety when we lean in, because
Yeah.
we can learn to be gentle and to go, wow, like how can we empower this perfectionism to be our friend and to see it as a lighting guide, but not buy into that old patterning. And once we become aware, it becomes easier.
Yeah. And speaking on empowerment, I do want to plug your free resource that we are sharing today. It's in the comments now here in the live Facebook group, and it'll be in the description of the YouTube video. It's your three tools for calm, confident decisions. Please do check out Genesee's offering there. So today is all about softening. That's our theme today. So we are going to explore that further with some EFT tapping. And before we dive into that, I want you to just touch a little bit more on what does softening look like in real life? Why is it so important for our nervous system health? And that way we know that why we're doing this, how we can apply this, how it helps us in real time, real life, and what it's doing to support our nervous system when we do these things, when we soften.
Yes, that's a good question. How do we apply this in real life? Well, because resistance fuels anxiety, softening dissolves it. So, how do we lean into the resistance in an everyday life, uh, routine? And that's developing an awareness of the pattern, like you said, in the taking time to practice. So, because then the nervous system has time to recalibrate. And so, when we have a daily practice that we're incorporating in, and that's how it looks like in real life, we can we can inspire the parasympathetic activation to become a more patterned response of health. And so uh, that's going to reduce the cortisol and bring us into a state of calmness with relaxation, sleep being easier. But in practice, it starts with the most basic of things that our mind will want to try to reject, which are things like you've been recommending so thoughtfully in all of your work on your Facebook group, slower breathing, um, paying attention to the signaling in the body, the jaw, the tightness in the chest, the tightness in the shoulders, whatever it may be. And these simple steps are what increases a window of tolerance. So then the more we practice that, the easier it becomes to lean into the softening. I think the trick of this though really becomes that the mind will want to get into a resistant stance of how it doesn't work. And how, oh God, I don't have time for that. This isn't going to be, I don't, come on, it's just a couple breaths, blah, 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 blah. And it really tells that story strongly. That never helped me before. Why is that going to help again? Oh, they're just always talking about that thing with the body, blah, blah, blah. But when we can really understand that, like, setting aside that time, and even if it doesn't feel like it's doing anything at first, to just keep going. We only need the 21 to 30 days with that cycle to develop a new shift in our bodies so that we can really actually start re uh, patterning the nervous system in a way that is of our highest benefit and outcome, which is what we seek, more peace. And slowly over time, it will change.
Yes, I so agree with that. And that's why I'm always advocating the fact that you have to have accountability because it's really your responsibility. It's your effort that you have to apply, and it's consistent effort. And that's where we move away from medicine or other alternatives because it's not a one and done. There's no magic pill. It's
No.
literally out of consistency and effort that things get rewired and you're able to retrain your system. And a lot of that just starts with the awareness. And then as you continue to work with those things to allow yourself to soften, that can become more second nature. And it's not to say that you won't always experience
No.
some sort of flare up or, I mean, our day all day long gives us reasons
We live.
to meet
Yes.
resistance, right? So
Yes.
that's why it's not about like, well, now I'll be cured forever. It's like, no, now
No.
you are more often than not coming from a better place. So your your tolerance level, your nervous system is already in a better equilibrium, and you have the resilience and awareness and techniques to know how to return because you will get thrown off. So if you just anticipate it's gonna happen instead of you
Yeah.
failed because you got stressed out,
Yeah.
that you know how
Yeah.
to get back, then you're okay. And we have to give up that perfectionism of, well, I'm not always, de-stressed, so clearly I'm not cut out for this.
Well, that is such a really imperative point that you're speaking to around the idea of understanding that instead of trying to get rid of it, we're learning how to adjust with it and understanding that life is a process. We live in very high stress times where everything is evolving so quickly that it is to be, we must expect it. And when we can expect it, instead of looking at it like we're getting rid of it, and know that we have these tools to apply to come back home, to come back center, to come back to, then the more it dissolves over time. And so that when these difficult moments present, we are really in contact with the what takes the, let's say, the dominant theme of it is coming home and coming back to center, because people call that embodiment. And you learn to then be in a state of, oh yeah, that's there again, okay. Life will always throw us curveballs and changes and shifts, and we must expect those.
Yeah, and I think that in our glazed over Instagram world, we just feel like, well, everybody else is great all the time. Why am I not? And it starts to
Right,
create this feeling of like it's never not supposed to be okay. Well, there's going to be a lot of not okay in your life, but you can
right.
manage it and you can be okay throughout. Don't ever expect it to be, flowers and sunshine all day. It's just not possible.
And it shouldn't be. And it shouldn't be, because thank you for saying that so well. Flowers are sunshine. Because we need the contrast. We
Yeah.
need to have the differentiation between what we want and what we don't want. And so life has to, is that's a part of an evolutionary cycle of life. We're not always happy in sunshine.
No, no, I love that you bring up you have to have contrast and dichotomy. So, okay, my friend, I think it's time. I think we
Okay.
have
Great.
we could talk all day on
I
we could talk
know.
all day
I
on
love
this, and
talking with you.
I love it, but I do want to give the people what we promised, and that's an amazing
Yes.
real-time experience of
Yes, yes,
softening through
yes.
EFT tapping. For those who have not tried it before, can you just give a brief
Yes.
explanation of how EFT does shift us out of
Yes.
anxiety and tightness into
I'm
that
going
more
to
softened and calm
try.
state?
That's great. And I'm going to try to keep this really quick. Well, EFT is a psychological acupressure for those of you who haven't known or heard of it. And so we'll be tapping with our fingertips on various acupressure points throughout the body. And we're going to do a little bit of that. But primarily today, we're going to spend time on our side hand point, which is going to be right here. And EFT blends cognitive behavioral theoretical orientations from traditional therapy world, which is thought feeling awareness, and how that affects our experience in life. So with um, Chinese acupressure and also uh, basically some other strategies that get a little complicated, but um, it's very profound, because is what we're doing is we're sending calming signals to our amygdala when we tap, because then it's reducing the fight flight freeze. So this is all science. So what's doing in that moment is, when we're going to meet this resistance with curiosity, which is what we're kind of primarily focused on today, the nervous system starts to feel embraced. And this is all based in like polyvagal theory. And basically, this rhythm that we'll be developing is going to stimulate the vagus nerve, which is going to help us with the parasympathetic activation, and then we're going to be able to move into a calmer state. So we're also in this process because we visit what's difficult, in terms of we want to name what is, what's relevant, what's present, in a meaningful way that actually is congruent for your truth, even though that seems counterindicated, because you're like, well, why would I want to talk about the bad things? I'm trying to be positive. What we're trying to do is we're trying to really acknowledge what is, because in that acknowledgement, we we go into we embrace the resistance instead of fighting it, instead of happiness and sunshine. And then once it's acknowledged, it softens, and it goes, we go, oh yeah, that is that. And then our neuroplasticity that's happening simultaneously starts to go, ah, okay, I feel a relief there. And then we can substitute more positive messages at a later time and increase safety, thus rewiring the brain. So when we're tapping on these points, we're conducting piezoelectricity. Piezoelectricity is the part that's activating that calmness. So we're focusing on the mind and the body simultaneously, and it is evidence-based and it's trauma-informed. So before we go into that part, I just want to make sure that everybody really understands that although we will be visiting some challenging parts, it's effective and it's safe and it's a substitute if you choose not to use medication. So
Perfect. I love that. And for
that,
anyone who hasn't tried it, I'm really hopeful that you stick around and do give it a go because in my experience, it's been great in the past, and I have no doubt that you too will find something about it that you can reflect on. So without further ado, Genesee, do I need to be speaking aloud for my own, like, because I'm gonna follow with you. I'm
oh,
thinking, should I turn off my mic? Or are you
I'm
having
really,
them speak
I'm
out loud
glad
at
that you're
home?
saying that. I think that speaking out loud is a fine thing to do, but if you're in a place where you can't speak aloud, you're just going to speak in your mind.
Okay, so this is
And
great for our viewers. So if you're doing this and you're like, oh, I'm secretly
yes,
watching this somewhere and I really shouldn't be,
that's right.
you
You
can
can
you can do this in your mind
absolutely.
just as well. Okay, good. Okay, I'm
Yes.
glad we covered that. I'm going to keep my mic on. I'm just going to do it in my mind and I'm going to let you lead the way.
Yeah, great. And I like though that you usually when we would do call and response, we will do that, but EFT can be conducted in many different ways, Jennifer. So that's a really good question. Um, so again, we're just going to be naming some of the heavier feelings, and then sometimes that increase of naming can be intense in the body. What I'm wanting us to do is to lean into that with an awareness of I'm safe, it's okay, and trust ourselves that this heaviness is here for a reason. And remembering that your breath and your presence is of absolute importance because that's what's going to anchor us into that heaviness to transform and release. So it doesn't last forever. And then it's not about fixing yourself. So understand that this EFT session, because I do a lot of different types of EFT, has a lot of blending in it. For those of you who've done EFT, this may not be like, oh, she's not doing EFT in the traditional way. No, I'm not.
And
So
generally it's much longer of a session, I understand too, than what we're getting today. This
yes,
is like a snippet
we're
of what
just getting a snippet today because we really to dive into the multifaceted layers of self would want to explore that individual specific need. So today I've tried to make it about like we're not fixing ourselves, we're leaning into the idea of resistance and how that relates to like perfectionism. So it's going to be very general. Okay, so let's just start. And I'll be closing my eyes and taking on and off my glasses as I need to, just to show you the points. But we're just going to start with the presence of breath. And as we begin here, let's become aware of our feet on the ground or wherever you are. Just become aware of a grounding feeling and breathing in through the bottoms of your feet, up through the central channel of your breath, the central core of your chest. A nice breath, holding it at your heart for 6 seconds, and then breathing that out the top of your head. So take a deep breath now, holding it right here at the heart, being present, and exhaling out the top of your head. Now, on our next breath in, breathing down through the top of your head as if you're breathing a light funnel, and then stopping at the heart, holding for 6 seconds, and being grateful for your presence here today, for your time you're dedicating. And exhaling down the central and out the bottoms of your feet. And one more breath into the bottoms of your feet. It comes with great acceptance. And holding a sense of reverence and acceptance for who you are in this moment. Exhaling that out the top of your head. Being aware of if anything shifted, just noticing. Okay, something may have changed, something may not have changed. All is well. There is no right, there is no wrong. There is just now. And now slowly coming back in, keeping this softness, this more internal presence. Let's just opening your eyes so you can see me a little bit, but having kind of a soft gaze. And just begin tapping gently on the side of your hand. This is the setup point. And this is where we can account for anything that's called psychological reversal, which means anything that part of us that wants to reject this. And we just say, yes, I accept right now. I accept where I am in this present moment. Another breath. And even though a part of me may feel some resistance and it doesn't fully even want to necessarily believe that this could be helpful, I'm open to the idea that I can try it anyway and be in acceptance of the present, of myself with my breath, and then welcoming your breath. One final one. Now we're going to go into a setup phrase. So even though there's this part of me that's been holding so much, maybe even more than I've ever realized that I hold, and a part of me that maybe doesn't even want to realize that, that's okay. And I choose to honor myself for being here today and being exactly where I am at this space and time. And I choose to honor that there may be parts of me that can't accept, and that's okay. And even though there's this heaviness sometimes and this tension and this perfectionism that I even don't always realize that shows up, I'm open to being aware that it may or may not exist. But mostly I'm open to an awareness of my desire to have more gentleness, more softening, a deep breath. And even though sometimes I really realize and sometimes I don't, that I resist slowing down, I choose to be curious about what that resistance to slowing down, to leaning in, to this holds for me. And the part of me that carries it. And maybe that part of me that carries it is here to teach me something. I set my intention for that now. Now just tune into any resistance that's coming into your body at this moment. Feel it in your body. Notice where it may be without judgment, with just ease. Just any physical pain you may have, any mental stories that may be occurring, that you've been having thoughts that perseverate and circle. Just tune in and notice and feel, where does that exist in my body? And just notice, is there a color? Is there a shape? Is there a size? Is there a texture to this energy? What does it look like? And just take notice. Any parts of you that may want to judge, just breathe into those and just be aware. Understanding that our point here today is to acknowledge that this resistance exists. We're not trying to fix it. We're just trying to feel it. And now breathe into that place of tension in your body, that place of pain, the voice, and affirm, I see you. And although now we can begin repeating, and please do change the words to suit any individual part of you that needs to change segments of this. Although there may be a part of me that doesn't want to feel this discomfort right now, doesn't like it, I acknowledge that part of me, and I acknowledge that part of this resistance. And I just continue to breathe into it with a sense of acceptance of what is here. And inhaling into the resistance. Notice where the pain is held. Notice where the thought is held. Notice where it is. Notice how it sounds, how it feels, the colors again. And exhaling, just being present with the discomfort of it. If it's there, perhaps there's no discomfort, and that is fine as well. There is no right and wrong. And just saying silently, I resist that there's been this resistance, and I notice that resistance in the resistance. And that's kind of a oxymoron, but it's for the subconscious mind. I resist that there's been this resistance, and I notice that there's parts of me that can't accept it. But I'm open to the idea that it may be a part of me trying to communicate. It may be a part of me trying to hear another part of me. And I acknowledge it now with ease, the best I can. And I can see how it makes sense that there's this part of my subconscious mind. This kept me safe, kept me in this survival pattern of not wanting to see this resistance. And I acknowledge that as well because I make sense in it. And I'm open to seeing that a part of this resistance has potentially been imprinted to protect me, to help me, to signal something important to me. And now just breathing in. Now we're going to run through the points. So I would encourage us to open our eyes gently and just follow this pattern. If you don't want to and you already know EFT, you can keep your eyes closed. We're going to the top head point. I've been holding so much. And now we're going to go to the inner eye point. Right here, it's really close on that inner scoop. I don't always feel like people see me, and I don't always even see this resistance myself. And that's okay. I accept. It's not a deficit. I don't have to make it right or wrong. Coming to the side of the eye. I just acknowledge it here and now and just support myself in this acknowledgement. And then under eye, coming to that directly under the pupil area. But I don't always like the feelings that come up when I lean into my body. They're uncomfortable. Under the nose now. And that's really understandable because anything that causes physical distress is uncomfortable. But I feel like it's safe potentially. I'm open to this, to lean into that part in my body that's speaking to me again. What is it saying? What is it communicating? Because I know in coming in between in between the lip and the chin, that there's a part of my mind or a part of my shoulder pain or part of my solar plex tightness, part of my tightness in my chest that may be trying to communicate with me. And just listening now, acknowledging, coming now to the chest points and just tapping all across the chest for a little bit here. And I acknowledge that there's been this invisible holding it all together weight. And that I may have not seen it before. And maybe I have, but I acknowledge that it's okay to lean into it. The resistance doesn't have to be a bad or good thing. I acknowledge it's just the body's way of trying to protect me. And I acknowledge and appreciate that that's been there for a reason. It makes sense. And now we're going to come to the underarm point that's just a little bit there. We're going to say, but it seems like it never stops. And I get so tired of it. I acknowledge that this weight of holding it all together has just impacted me and it's become so exhausting in some moments, just absolutely exhausting. And I acknowledge that. I allow myself to really validate that experience within myself. Now, coming back to that side of the hand again, we'll just remain here for a second. I acknowledge that allowing myself to acknowledge any of this and to rest and be present with myself hasn't been easy because my tendency in the protection has been to resist and to plug ahead and push ahead. And that makes sense because that's what I've learned. And although I don't always let myself the ability to have permission to rest, I acknowledge and allow that now. Even though a part of me may be resistant in doing that, because a part of me feels like, oh, I can't stop. I can't stop. There's so much to do. There's so many people that need me. There's so many things that don't get done unless I do them. And just looking into that and being with that and validating that makes sense. I see why I've been doing this pattern because I feel like I've had to hold it together. And I know that there's this part of me that's concerned that if I let this go, if I just relinquish into this moment of acceptance of this resistance, then something's going to fall apart. I see that. I acknowledge that. That's difficult. I can see why I haven't wanted to do this. I can see why leaning in hasn't been easy. And I truly acknowledge that sense of urgency that I've had has been a place of safety to protect me and others in my nervous system. And it makes sense because all I've ever wanted to do was make sure it was okay for myself and for others. And I see that that's what's kept me safe. And I'm open to acknowledging that my body has been holding this resistance and doing this patterning because it's been trying to help me. It's truly just been trying to help me. It's been going on what it's been used to keep me safe. It thought that if I could get ahead and if I could keep pushing, if I could keep going, then I could fix it. And that makes sense. I see you, body. I acknowledge you, body. And so now we're just going to recognize that protector pattern of the body. Just notice that part of that that's protected you. And without judgment, I notice this part as a protector. I see the part that's leaned and learned this pattern and used it. There's a part of me that has even accepted it, rightly so, as my friend. And I can see how it's been a friend to me. It's kept me safe. It makes perfect sense. And even though a part of me doesn't want to really maybe acknowledge it's been my friend, that's okay. I I acknowledge that it's served a purpose for me. It's the part of me that's gotten used to protecting, keeping safe, embracing what's going to happen next. What can go wrong? What can I, oh no, who's going to attack me? Oh, I'm too sensitive. It's helped protect that sensitive part of me. So this resistance has been an important protector, and I can accept that a part of me may not be able to accept that, but maybe a part of me can. And I acknowledge that this pattern of trying to take on things and trying to control has also been a part of that. Now name the part of yourself that you've done that in. Find the area of your life that you've done that in and just see what you've been through as you've done that, protecting, that doing, that fixing. And just say, I acknowledge this part. I acknowledge that this pattern of control, this pattern of taking things on, this pattern of not setting boundaries, it's been there for a great reason to try to help me and others. And I honor this part of me. I acknowledge it only meant well. And it's the bioenergetic protector. It makes sense. The biological, the energetic, the part that says, I just want to be here for you. And it's not good or bad. Neither side of this is. Acknowledging that. I accept that there may be a part of me having a hard time accepting this. But nevertheless, I'm open to accepting that resistance may be an overactivation survival strategy that my body has learned. And even though a part of me may not even understand a part of any of this, I acknowledge that a part of me may be protecting another part of me. And it makes sense because I've never wanted to be hurt. I've never wanted to be not loved. I've never wanted to not be accepted. I've just always wanted to be cared for. It makes sense. And maybe I was taught, I learned these patterns in my environment to keep myself safe. I honor this part of me for what it's gone through, what it's learned, how it's had to adapt it. I honor this part of me of what it went through in all those environments, what it had to tend to, what it had to defend against. And I see it as an opening. I see it as an opportunity. And even though it's uncomfortable, that part of me, I'm open to accepting that it may have a message. This part of me does make sense. I make sense. My experience makes sense. And my protections of resistance and also make sense. And I understand that even if I fully don't need all these details now, I can't connect all of this right now, I don't have to. Because I just wonder if what if there may be a part of me that can work with this part of me, even though a part of me may still feel this resistance and not fully understand it. I'm open to the idea that I may be able to work with this part, lean into this part, be in this part without judgment, with just, it is what it is. And what if I could work with it instead of against it and not fight it? What if I could honor this part of me with a sense of understanding and compassion, softness and gentleness? What if the part that resists slowing down could be a part of communication, a communication of me learning how to be more regulated in the truth of my higher self? I'm open to the idea that I can choose to thank this part of me for trying to protect me. I'm open to the possibility that I can choose to let it know that I am safe right now. I'm open to the possibility that it might be safe for me to take a break and pause and lean in with my breath, lean in with my practice daily, being present in my body. I am safe enough. This is safe enough. I don't have to be holding it all together all the time. My strength is in my presence of letting down the rope, being able to lean into not holding it together all the time. So it's safe to let go of perfection. It's safe to embrace it in a new way. It's safe to look at perfection as a leader and a teacher that I can adopt in a meaningful relationship and redevelop a softening with it. Because my worth is simply being a human being. And I choose to soften, to be gentle with myself. Now let's just go through some nice final phases. Take a deep breath, which I wasn't really reminding us to do, but I want to encourage a couple, 3 deep breaths now. And I may have been so kind of fixated in the presence of wanting to give you those meaningful words, but always breathing and into this. And so as we breathe, just take some breaths as we accept this protector and this resistance. I accept that this has been my protector, this pattern. And I may be able to allow a little bit of it to not protect me anymore. There we go. I'm open to choosing to allow this resistance to rise to the relationship of soften. I apologize if I sound a little loud, but we do want to be very deep in those breaths at home. For those of you, just let it out, sigh it out. I'm willing to try to breathe into this resistance as protector. Now, I'm open to accepting that I did something today here with this sacred process. I showed up in acknowledgement, and that is something. I'm not going to change all of this overnight, but I've already begun the process right here, right now. I accept it, even though some of this has been difficult. I'm open to seeing that I can continue potentially with this nervous system work and knowing that it can be safe. It's not bad. It's not good. It just is softening into compassion. And as I tap, I release this transformation to a new space. I can't change the past, but I have the opportunity to be here and now in the present. And I'm open to this idea of freedom with my energy, letting it, all the energy that no longer serves, subside, and simply feel that energy and allow it to rise up into your body. And now we can slow ahead and slow down and bring our hands down into a presence and just simply breathing in, holding your hand on your chest and one on your belly, and feel the energy. You may feel more buzzy and tingly, and that's good. And you may feel nothing, and all is well. There is no right. And breathing in now, 6 seconds on our hold. I breathe in to the present moment of what is. And exhaling that out, allowing my nervous system the space it deserves to soften. Breathing another 6 seconds in. I've done amazing work today. I'm really a special person for showing up for myself. Exhaling out. And I'm open to the idea on your next 6 seconds in that bit by bit, moment by moment, and acknowledgement by acknowledgement, I have the ability to become the person it is I truly am, a thoughtful, caring, beautiful, centered, depthful soul that had all of the right to shine on this planet with great glory and beauty, even though there may be a part of me that still doesn't quite know that yet. And if it does know that yet, wonderful. And now, just coming in with these breaths, we'll affirm some final affirmations. I am safe to pause. I am safe to take a break. It is safe for me to explore the relationship of how perfection and how an anxiety are messages and communicators and may provide an opportunity for me to lean more into my wholeness, my fullness. And I appreciate myself for this today. And slowly, just opening your eyes and attuning to this present moment, being open to accepting that we can learn to be safe, to be in the moment is possible. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. You thank me, but I'm like, no, thank you. Uh, well, I feel like you read my mind, like you were just inside me, speaking directly to me and knew every one of my struggles and thoughts and things that I have.
Oh, that's
And I
good.
can say with great confidence that if I felt that way, that many people feel the same way, that it's common. And I think we can take comfort in that. We personalize things so many times and think that we're broken because we feel these things or struggle with these things. And I think that we can take comfort in the fact that this is a common thread among us, and that we do all share these struggles and these thoughts and these things that come up for us, and even the wounding that has happened. So thank you
Yes.
for just your thoughtful guidance, and it's so skillfully led. And yeah, if
Oh,
anybody resonates with anything that came up for them or the practice themselves, I would love to hear about what shifted for you in the comments, or just letting us know. And definitely, I want to let you know where you can find Genesee to continue this experience should it resonate with you and you're really ready to dive deeper into what this work could unfold in your journey to rewiring your nervous system. So, Genesee, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, what are the best ways, or how can they stay in your world?
great. Yes. Thank you for that. I was just looking at my notes going, where in the world is that one piece of paper? Um, that's the beautiful moment of perfectionism, how it presents and how I'm like, oh, that's all right. Here's how it can
To help
happen.
you out in the email I send out, in the description on
Yeah.
YouTube when this is posted,
Yeah.
your links will be included in there.
Thank
I
you.
understand you have a Facebook group that they can join. I was
Yes. So
posted,
thank you.
so I know about that.
I have it in my head. So Anxiety Secrets for Professional Women is the Facebook group. It's my free Facebook group. Thank you, Jennifer, where every week I go live giving different topics along the same line that I really pour my heart into this work. I'm really present, and we have a beautiful community we're forming there. Um, and Jennifer also has, I think, in all the comments, I should have a Calendly link. So you're welcome to book, and I'd encourage you to just see if it's resonant. Book a free 30-minute consultation where we can sit down and kind of cash through if that's a fit for you. And then also in the comments, I provided she's already mentioned my 3 tools, little pamphlet worksheet. That's a really cool worksheet to just take a peek through. It tells you a little bit more about me. But the Facebook group is really my main source of how I would encourage you to contact with me. DM me, friend me on Genesee Salamon. My link is also down there. Jennifer's so articulate. She already had it all put together. I'm so grateful. And then and just friend me and then have contact with me in that way. I have plenty more freebies in the group. There's tons of awesome content. I'd love to have you, and it's been an honor to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One last thing I wondered if you could share, if someone wants to keep this feeling of softening, this grounded feeling with them
Yes.
throughout the day, what's the one simple thing that you would suggest that they could do in the moment?
I love that. I'm so glad that you're telling me that. And this is really good because this is good for the integration um kind of piece, because we always want to be integrating, and I have to be honest, I didn't really get integration until I had gotten integration. So integration is a concept of allowing for the process to occur. So you may feel very tired after this and sleepy. Go listen to your body today, get on the earth, take a walk, that sort of stuff. But I would go back to what we did before, and I'm not sure what can be seen. So I'm going to step back, and I just want to make sure that when you're doing this, you're placing your hands here. And what that is doing is it gives you that 5 seconds of breath to go into, and it's doing a chemical reaction in your brain. So it's not just like for nothing. And I want you to just to encourage yourself to say, I accept that this is happening right now. I accept that this doesn't feel good. I'm just going to breathe into the moment, and I'm just going to be in naming this part of me that doesn't accept it. Even though it's hard, I accept it. And then using your breath. That's my,
Perfect.
and tapping across the chest in this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I love that. That felt really good. So, well, thank you for sharing that little tidbit about how we can kind of keep integrating this throughout our day and keep returning to this space. And I just want to remind everybody that softening isn't just about doing less, becoming less, rolling over and taking it. It's really about making space for your fullest and
Yeah.
most aligned self to shine, to also accept those parts of us that are resisting, and just to really be there for yourself. It's like a form of self-care, is now what I'm realizing when I think of the word softening. So thank you, Genesee, for bringing that sort of revelation to my mind.
Oh,
And thank you all for just being here and joining us and caring for your mind and your body and your energy today. And you know how to get a hold of us if you should need to. But on that note, is there anything last that you would like to say, Genesee, before we sign off today?
well, I just want to thank you, Jennifer, for your deep-hearted presence that you provide. I think you are so skilled at this podcast. I was just taken with you for the first time I saw you. And I want you to know how important, our relationship has become. And I would highly encourage um, anybody to work with Jennifer as well, because she's just amazing. And I just think that you have a wealth of knowledge. And so I'm really grateful for this connection we've made. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And thank you so much for all the nice things. I'm humbled. So
Oh,
all right,
yay.
everybody. Well, I just hope you all got to experience this in its entirety and do it again. Do it again if you need to. And I look forward to joining you next time and find us out there. Grab a hold of those resources while you can,
Yeah.
because why not, right? All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day.